Welcome to today's video. Don't forget to smash that bell and subscribe. It's good for the channel. But enough of that. Let's get into it. Well, to be honest, I'm the number 2 guy. I work for the boss. Yeah, that's right. My boss is a mob boss. He's the kind of guy that takes you for a boat ride. Yeah, one of those kind of boat rides. You're guessing one of those kind where you don't come back. It's about half right. See, my boss doesn't like people to trip out. He's kind of nice about it. Yeah, he might shoot you in the head, and that's kind of where I come in. I'm the number 2. But at the same time, he likes you to dress up in a nice, fine Italian suit, because he might promote you. He takes you on the boat ride so you don't piss yourself. So, to put it simply, you go on the boat, get some fishing, you get drunk, and you either get shot, and that's where I'm on the boat, or you get a promotion and all the guys love you. Then you go to the social club and it's all good. Well, I'm the number 2, as I said, and it's time for me to get a promotion. I take care of business for the boss, and the boss likes that. So he patted me on the back the other day and he's like, "Hey, I think it's time we go for a boat ride. We haven't got any good fish in a while, and I think it's time we catch up." Naturally, I'm like, hell yeah. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh shit, the boss is going to kill me. You just don't know. So I talked to Vinny at the social club. I'm like, hey, I got to go stock up on meat and tackle. I'm going on a boat ride. Vinny drops his drink. He's like, oh shit, is it good? And I just look at Vinny and I'm like, I hope so. So we jump into Vinny's piece of shit rusty old Cadillac and we go down to the supermarket. We get some steaks and burgers, all the good stuff, and some tackle, and lots of alcohol for the boss. The boss loves to get his drink on. And we go back to the social club because I need to get liquored up. I'm nervous as hell. And I talk to the valet, and Vanny and me go have a couple drinks before we load the boss's yacht. And well, to make a long story short, we pull up to the yacht a little later on. And the boss is going to be there in a few minutes. So I give Vinny $20. I tell him to take my caddy and I'll unload his shit. And I'll see him later. And Vinny takes off and I do my thing and load the boat. And there it is. Big, beautiful red Cadillac. The boss is on his way. I can see it down the street. So I start talking to the boss. We get in the boat and start heading out of the harbor. Now, around 20 miles off to the left, there's a rocky cliff. And that's where the big fish are. And that's where we're going. Because I figure if I can get the boss to catch a big fish, a real big fish, maybe it'll go more in my favor. Because I'm kind of nervous. So I give the boss a cognac and light a cigar. And I head out to sea towards that cliff. And I park the boat probably 50 yards off the shore. I drop the anchor. And the boss is like, "Hey, fuck nuts, where's my drink? I'm empty." I'm like, "Right away, boss." And I take care of the boss and get him a drink. And I'm like, "Oh shit, I forgot some things. Be right back. I'm gonna go get the bait." And I go downstairs and on the boat. And he hears a lot of noise. He's like, "What the hell are you doing down there? Get the bait." I'm like, "Right away, boss." And I open the port window and I throw some things out. I come back and I bait our hooks, and that's when we both kind of look at each other, looking in the water, as we see a really big shadow swim by the boat. It's as big as a Buick. Boss is like, "Where did you take us?" I just looked at him and I'm like, "Hey, I took us where the big fish are. We're gonna catch a monster today." As I kind of wigged him, kind of nudged him in the ribs, and he's like, "Yeah, if it doesn't catch us first." The boss never looked nervous, but even he didn't like to see that big old fish, that giant shadow swimming by the boat. I have to tell you, I was kind of nervous. I've never seen a fish that big. But I baited the hooks and we threw our hooks in, and we're catching some pretty good fish. Nothing big, but nothing small. And then that's when I saw that same shadow, big old shadow, cruise by the boat. And then that's when the fin popped out of the water. I don't know how big sharks are supposed to be, but that's got to be the granddaddy of them. I just kind of looked at the boss, and he noticed I was nervous, and I looked at the water, and that's when he saw the big fin. And he's like, "I need to catch that fucking fish." And I'm like, "You will, boss, you will." He's like, "But first, let's take care of our business." As he reached around behind his back, he pulled out the small 22. It's the one he keeps in the drawer in the kitchen of the boat. I knew this, because I take care of the business for the boss. He cocks it back and he's like, "Well, here's your promotion." I'm like, wait. I do a good job for you. What the hell? He's like, "Yeah, but you know too much. I'm not going to prison. I don't give a fuck how good you are." As he points it up towards me and pulls the trigger, he hears the click. He cocks it back and hears the click again. And I'm like, "Yeah, I do know a lot. Boss, and I'll tell you what I do know. I know where you keep the gun, and I know you never check the clip. I'm your number two, and I'm number two for a reason. I think ahead." And that's when the boat starts to lean a little to the left, and his drink slides off the rail into the water. And he's like, "What the hell was that?" And I'm like, "Well, boss, let me paint a picture for you. I'm number two for a reason, like I said. And let me paint this picture really good for you. That noise you heard was probably about a half a foot large, big circular hole saw. I drilled a hole in the boat." And he's like, "What the fuck did you do that for?" And I kind of laughed to myself. I'm like, "'Cause you can't swim good. I poisoned you, and you're never going to make it to those rocks. And that big shadow, well, let me just sum it up to you. I paid Vinny $400 to chum the waters. Probably about 2 hours before I went shopping. Put all the stuff in the boat. So that thing, it's totally hungry, and there's blood in the water, and I don't think you're going to make it." And the boss looked at me and said, "Oh yeah? Well, you can't swim for shit. You're not going to make it either." And I just looked at the boss and I'm like, "Yeah, I can't swim for shit, but you know what? I don't have to. I don't have to be a fast swimmer, boss. All I got to do is swim faster than you." And that's when I started unbuttoning my suit, and I had swimming trunks underneath and a t-shirt. And he's like, "What the hell is this?" I'm like, "Well, it was kind of planned out. You told me this is how it's going to go. Well, I'm telling you, this is how this is going to go." And that's when I ran past the boss and jumped in the water. Like I said, I'm not a good swimmer, but all I gotta be is just faster than him. The boss kind of looked at me, and he just not believing his eyes of what's happening as the boat starts to lean a little more to the left. Starts to sink in. The boss better get in that water fast. And that's when he saw that giant shadow swim past the boat again. I'm halfway to the rocks now, looking back, and that's when I saw that big fin in the water. It did a U-turn, started heading towards the boat as the boss kind of fell into the water swimming. He looked like a wounded duck. It was great. But I kind of got scared, had to pick up my pace. I noticed that fin was getting faster and faster in the water. Reaching up to the slippery rock, doing some splashing on my own, I finally got a handhold, pulling myself up on the rocks. Looking back, seeing the boss, and that's when I hear a scream at the top of his lungs as the water fills with blood. It splashes him to the left and to the right. Seeing the boat going down in the background, to the left, slowly rolling over to its side. As the ass end of the boat goes underneath the water, all you can see is the tip as bubbles and debris surround what was left of the boat as it sinks beneath the waves. The boss stops screaming as all you could see is blood and teeth in the water as the shark finally crunched down hard enough, severed one of his arms, and drug him beneath the water. The boss was gone. The boat was gone. Kind of shaking from what I've seen. All I saw was debris in the water. There was nothing left. Now I have to tell you, I've shot a lot of guys, but I ain't never seen some shit like that. Clawing my way up the dirt on the hill, that's when I looked up, seeing Vinny standing there smoking a cigar. Vinny's kind of scratching his head. He's like, you know what? You're the boss now. I understand what's going on. But why do you have to do all that shit? Why couldn't you just kill him? Dusting myself off, covered in mud. I'm like, well, Vinny, it's like this. If you're going to kill a boss, you do it in style. And Vinny's like, okay, boss, but I got one last question. We loaded the whole thing with meat and steak and stuff. What the hell? And I'm like, Vinny, come here. Pop the trunk. He popped the trunk on his old Cadillac. There's 2 coolers sitting there full of steak, and shrimp, all the good stuff. And Vinny just kind of looks at me. He's like, hey, when did you have time to do this? I kind of just laughed at him. I'm like, you know what? I talked to the valet, and we had all this stuff put in your car, and I didn't put shit in that boat. All that happened is the boss got eaten. That piece of shit old boat of his that he loved so much sunk with him. Well, let's go to the social club. Vinny just kind of laughed as we got into his piece of shit old rusty Cadillac. And all you could see is us in this old brown Cadillac cruising down the dirt road, laughing as we went. Well, I hope you guys liked today's story. And don't forget, smash that bell and subscribe. Subscribe so you can hear more stories. We got more coming. And as always, have a good night.